Let me say that line over again so there doesn't have to be any Doberman barks.
Thanks for signing up for the Escape With Me Book Club's Patreon. Escape with me, Lizzie Sawyer.
And me, Sam Reiner.
As we analyze the difference between a book and its movie.
Today we are going back to our middle school days to contrast the popular mid-lit book Swindle with its direct-to-television version created by Nickelodeon. Mainly because I'm pretty sure if we actually compared similarities to these two, it would be a much shorter podcast. Today we are also joined by the wonderful producer of the Empire's Edge podcast, which we highly recommend to anyone who enjoys either D&D or podcast. They publish new episodes every Monday. He has also been a very good friend of ours since middle school. I'm pleased to introduce David Warner.
Hi, it's so good to be here. How are you guys?
Awful. Just awful. It's been horrid.
Awesome.
I am glad you get to be here today. I'm so glad you managed to do the arduous task of reading a book for us.
Oh yeah, I guess we should start with that. I don't read. I don't like reading. It is not my favorite thing to do. And somehow, I have no idea how, Sarah convinced me to read a book.
Because I'm charismatic and charming and awesome.
She said that they were doing this Patreon series for books turned into movies and asked if I had read any books that had been turned into movies.
Well, no, you were like, I don't read books. And I was like, well, you have to like some books. You were like, the last book I liked was Swindle from middle school.
That's right.
And then I looked it up and it was like, hey, guess what has a movie?
Yeah. Last time I both willingly read a book and enjoyed it was middle school, where I read Gordon Corman's Swindle, which got turned into a movie in 2013.
And I bet you regret that decision now.
Yeah, I opened my mouth and I typically do regret that.
So let's go over everyone's brief experience with the book. I haven't. I don't think you had read the book before either, Lizzie, right?
Nope, I have not read this book before.
I remembered it from Scholastic Fairs because I always saw it and I always wanted to pick it up and read it because there was a dog on the cover. And
the dog does look familiar, yes.
But every time I picked up the back of the book, this is about a baseball card, and I put it back.
Yep.
I always remember my first impression because do you remember those Scholastic Book Fair videos that they would show during class or whatever?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about those!
That would be the horrible looking paper animations.
Oh, yeah. No, I only remember the erasers and the different little rubber bands and the little sticky notes and the little pencils with the fuzzy things on the ends.
The end cap for children.
That's all I remember.
Oh, man. I remember they would have the book, but they would have some woman or some voiceover reading the back of the book in the summary.
I remember that one had a dude's voice, though.
It could have been. I just remember that it had that horrible looking animation, but I never really got a chance to fully take in the dog on the cover and form an opinion of what it meant. I knew exactly because the first time I was introduced to the book, the synopsis was read to me.
And you somehow still managed to read it.
Yeah, I just needed a book for, what was it called? Silent reading? Is that what it was called?
My elementary school, we had a star reward system. So if you read a certain number of books, you would get a star for your hat. It was reading something or another. And I had all the stars and I had enough stars to get a paw. And I liked reading. I'm a reader.
I bet there's no way to get negative stars, but I would have figured it out.
Oh, yep.
So none of us knew that this had a movie until a couple months ago. But this movie came out in 2013, which we were all 11th grade. So it would have been not normal for us to watch this Nickelodeon movie.
We all know these actors because we used to watch Nickelodeon. However, we didn't watch this movie because it was past the point where we would watch Nickelodeon movies.
I mean, I don't know, because this seemed like it was prime iCarly time.
It wasn't. This was already when Sam and Cat came out.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Because it was in 2013 when it came out. And we were old enough to watch iCarly, which is where two of the people come from. And then also Victorious, which is where Ariana Grande came from, but that's why we don't know the two male leads, because they got a show right around that time.
But honestly, you look at the movie, and at first, it doesn't look horrible, because you see Ariana Grande, you see Jeanette McCurdy, you see whoever played Gibby, and it honestly, it looks like, you know what, I liked those people in those TV shows that I saw on Nickelodeon, I'll give it a shot, and then you regret it immediately.
And honestly, Disney has done this a ton of times. I remember late into high school that they would, what was it? It's like the Beachside movie where it was a bunch of, anyway, they were still hype in high school for these Disney TV show movies, not for Nickelodeon, and now we know why. No love.
Okay, but we were talking first impression of the books.
Yeah.
That was mine.
Oh, well, all right.
Scholastic Book Fair video paper animations of dog barking and high stakes drama that is collectibles training industry.
Honestly, when I read the synopsis of the book, I was kind of like, oh, it's about a baseball card.
Yes!
And then it was like, but they steal it. And I was like, it's going to be a cringy book. And it was. It was kind of a cringy book, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, but it was good for what it was. Remember, this is elementary school kids reading about the older, cool...
Oh, no, yeah, I know. This isn't the genre that I've ever gone for, ever.
Neither. I got to baseball card every time and I put it back because I was like, this is a boring book. It involves baseball cards.
Guys, I hate to tell it to you, but this is middle school.
Well, yeah.
This came out when we were in 6th grade. We would have been the exact same age as the main characters.
This wasn't a genre I would read in middle school, is what I'm saying.
It came out in 2008.
2008 would have been 6th grade year for us.
I'm trying to remember. We didn't have scholastic fairs in middle school, though.
Yeah, we did. And they had them in the media center or library, depending on where you are in the country. They took over the whole center of the library.
Oh, okay. The reason I thought it was elementary school, because my mother's an elementary school teacher, and so I saw it when I was volunteering to help her there. That's why I thought it was elementary school. Either way, it still stands. I picked it up, saw a baseball card, and put it back down. So let's actually get into this. The major changes were...
Everything.
I
could just start going down through my notes and reading out my comments.
I'm pretty sure the only thing they kept is most of the names.
Yeah, okay.
Are still the same. And then...
Most of the names.
It's about a baseball card. And that's it. That's the only similarities here.
Well, and that they get swindled out of the baseball card and that they have to steal the baseball card back.
And there's so many different facets that you can choose to decide to when to start crapping on this movie.
From the very beginning.
I started crapping on it when the main male character started flirting with the camera as he walked towards it. Because I was like, ugh.
Yes!
Oh my God, that whole walk-up scene of this little prick high schooler who's wearing a suit coat to school, who's Mr. Cool, I got everything that you could need, talking to the jocks, talking to the nerds, giving them everything that they need, and just that whole walk-up, that whole entire just montage of him entering school made me want to punch him in the face.
It's like, oh, are you cool? Cute.
I know. The entire time, I disliked it from the moment when he was walking toward the camera and he just barely moved this way or that and all the cake avoided him while everyone else was getting covered in it. I'm going to hate you. You are annoying. You're going to be what those TV execs are like. This is what a cool kid does.
One of the things that I don't like either is they did a lot away with certain plot points that were somewhat...
They did away with all of the plot points.
Okay, yeah, they did away with the plot because there's a lot of stuff in the book was really kind of helpful. Like, one of the things that I really liked that I thought reoccurred a lot was certain points of Ben's character. And Ben was just completely wiped clean and given this blank, boring slate of the friend's sidekick who brought nothing to the table. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, he's the cliche comedy relief character.
Yes.
He's even the cliche token black character. For the time period, if you were a sidekick, you were black.
Also true.
And then you throw it all together with, you never learn anything in the movie about Griffin Bing's family. Whereas in the book, his dad was the inventor of the smart pick. The whole thing, that the final climax of the, well, I say final climax, but the whole big heist amounts to is having to do with his dad's invention. But right from the get-go, you get thrown for a loop and you see that it was actually Ben's dad who, instead of calling it a smart pick, called it an I got it.
He makes Mr. Gadget's arm.
He does!
He's basically Go-Go Gadget's hand on a device.
And takes it to the NBC hit show Snake Pit.
They make the dad incompetent. Just straight up.
Oh my God.
He built the thing, though, so he's obviously not incompetent. He just...
Those parents, right?
That is so classic Nickelodeon sitcom style dad of just being an absolute ditz.
Parents just don't understand.
But he built this thing, so he's obviously somewhat competent.
Yeah, he built a thing that could not physically exist.
I know. That CGI cost a lot of money.
Shut up.
You built this after you went broke.
I like how he talks at the beginning, too, where he talks about, the entry fee for going to this hotel and going on this show is about $500. And then he punches a hole through the wall, and the wife's like, how much is that going to cost to fix? He goes, about $500. Like, oh man, look at that lovely symmetry. But no, it will not cost $500 to fix a hole in drywall. Get real.
No, cut a square in the drywall, get a new piece of drywall, cut into the same square shape, and then spackle it in. You're fine.
Yes. I feel like we can just keep on crapping on the movie, but I want to make sure that we're actually in the right portion of it for doing that and we're just not ranting and rambling.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of ranting and rambling.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
But because he makes this hole in the wall, in the book, there's this cool sleepover. And Griffin's a rebellious type. That's the other thing I don't like about the fact that they shifted it from being Griffin's family to Ben's family is Griffin has no emotions. He has no emotions. There is no emotions this entire movie.
At all.
We learn nothing about the entire character in the movie.
None.
The whole book is centered around the night that they spend in the Rockford house where they find the card, which, that's another thing. In the book, they find a Babe Ruth misprint card of him wearing a Red Sox uniform rather than the Yankees, which he played for. And I thought, okay, yeah, in history, I don't know if it's changed since then, but the second most valuable sports memorabilia piece ever sold. But in the movie, they just pull out all the stops and go that Ben found in this little Altoids can hidden in the wall of his house the Honest Wagner card, which did sell at auction for 1.2
I believe so, yeah.
or 1.7 whatever it was million dollars. It was like, come on.
Which they mention in the book, because he's like, in comparison, oh, that would have been a valuable card.
Yes.
But this is just Babe Ruth. And so that one feels so much more believable. But also, let's talk about, I'm just going to, a little bit of a tangent. When they do get swindled out of it, the dude's like, haven't you ever heard of the internet?
Oh my God.
Yes, teenage boys who can find anything at any price. Why was the internet the first place you didn't go?
They pointed it out too, because Ben said, why don't we look this up first? And Griffin's like, there's no time. What?
You had to get all the way over there.
What were they rushing to?
Griffin, there definitely is time. You're supposedly a pro at this. You should know to look up how much this is supposedly worth before you go into a place to sell it.
And what were they doing the entire way there?
I mean, even as he's bartering with this dude, the price can go higher, and he does get the price higher, but not enough.
Also, I just love how it never comes back on him. That's never his fault. The fact he got swindled is not his fault. It's this other dude's fault.
Yeah.
Never, ever do they give him crap for it. Besides Swindle being like, why didn't you look it up?
One of the biggest points, too, in the book at least, is because the kids are in middle school, they're 6th graders. They're super young. They're, how old are you in 6th grade? Is that 10? 10 years old?
Roundabout.
Yeah, they're 10-year-olds. And they go there, the thing happens, and they know that they have no credibility. They know that no person will listen to a word that they say because they're 10 years old.
And I talk about that at the beginning of the book, too.
Yeah, and Griffin has these morals that he's like, kids should be able to count just as much as adults, so you can at least get where he's coming from.
He was a much more believable, much more enjoyable character in the book. But in the movie, they're in high school. And even then, just freshmen, still, in that time span, people will take high schoolers a bit more seriously. If you get robbed, like theft, that straight up fraudulent actions such as that, where if the guy talks them out of that card, it would not be difficult for a high schooler to try and go through the avenues of talking to the parents, just saying, hey, this is a thing that happened. I want to bring down the law on this guy, because it would actually launch into an investigation and things would actually happen because of it. And as we can see in the movie, the guy's got security cameras all over the place. It would be very obvious they did in fact sell the card. There's no anchor for the plot for the movie whatsoever, because every single thing was built on such a weak foundation.
There's not. In the book, they do such a good job because they come back to him and are like, hey, our card. He's like, psh, I sold that for like barely any. I found this in an estate sale. So he had a quote unquote alibi for where he got this expensive card.
Whereas in the movie, the guy straight up admits to it. The second they walk in, they're like, well, you should have thought about that. Ha 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 ha. I'm a swindler, whatever he said. It was dumb.
Also, Swindle as a character is dumb in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's not a good person in the book, but at least he's more plausible than this horrible person that they've depicted in the movie, pushing nuns down streets and stealing. Oh, I think doesn't he literally steal candy from a baby at one point? If this person were real, he would have been arrested by now.
Out of context, this movie sounds fantastic.
We're going to come back to that nun thing as well. I just want to give that a heads up. But yes.
Out of context, this movie sounds absolutely enjoyable, but it's not.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other characters. Savannah. I hate that they took out the dog.
Now, for those of you that are wondering, Savannah was Logan in the books.
Savannah in the books was an animal lover and she took care of Doberman, but that plot line gets completely erased, even though that was the book cover.
The main image on the front cover of the book was that dog, and then in the movie, they're like, you know what we don't need? We don't need that.
And for the entire series.
That dog was the main character of the book.
Accurate.
Right?
But she gets turned into Logan.
Who's the actor kid that actually goes out for commercials in the book.
There is no dog whisperer, and they just get rid of the dog character entirely, which, of all the things to get rid of, I can understand, at least from a movie-making standpoint, you do that because...
dogs are hard to work with.
Oh yeah, animals and kids are the hardest things to work with, and they're already working with one of those.
But can we talk about how weird it was seeing Jeanette McCurdy be timid?
Oh my god, yeah.
That broke the fourth wall.
Jeanette McCurdy, I will hand to the sky right now across my heart too. Jeanette McCurdy was my first celebrity crush I had when I was a kid. And the fact that I see this movie and it existed back in 2013, I'm like, how did I not know about this? Because I loved Jeanette McCurdy. I thought she was great.
Did you ever watch Sam and Cat?
I did, but I didn't like Ariana Grande that much. I couldn't get into the show.
Really?
Especially from Victorious. I was introduced to her as just this ditzy kind of character who played the exact same person in every single show that she was in. I just cannot get interested in this.
I mean, to be fair, it was the exact same person from Victorious.
Which is also a true statement, yeah.
So it was really weird seeing that. Then Amanda, which I am pissed off that they took her name. Her name was awesome. In the book, her name was Pitch.
Oh, her nickname was Pitch. Her real name was Antonia.
And so they changed it to Amanda and completely invented a personality for her. She's a cheerleader, and so that's why she can do a lot of the acrobatics.
The second prettiest girl in school.
She's kind of rude. She's the second prettiest girl in school. They kept bringing that up, and I got a little offended for her.
Oh my gosh, I want to know who's the person who's creating the up-to-date log of who the most attractive girl in school is.
I was mad on her behalf. How degrading for the entire movie, them to just be like, oh yeah, but remember, she's the second prettiest girl.
But also, to be fair, that joke had one of the best payoffs in my opinion, because at the end you find out that the thing that Griffin did to help her become the second prettiest girl in school was apparently got the, at the time, second prettiest girl's dad transferred to Denver.
Okay, I did like that, but it's just the fact that they kept bringing it up. If they had just did that in the beginning, it would have been fine.
Well, they kept bringing it up because she's also a nerd, and they wanted to play off of the weirdness of it's unheard of pretty girls liking nerd things. Gasp!
And that was the other time that I got really mad because they're like, pretty girls can't like nerdy things. That makes you less attractive unless another nerd likes you. Why do you guys focus on her looks so much?
It's 2013. They were simpler times, I guess.
Okay, this was a trash script from beginning to end, period.
Oh yeah, no. There's no saving this script. The best we can do now is give it a proper burial.
Darren Vader in the books is a believable bully.
And then in the movie, he is this superhuman strength individual.
I made fun of him up until the point where he pushed the car, and then I was like, oh, okay.
And then threw Ariana Grande onto the roof of the building.
I will be honest, though, the character development of Darren Vader...
that was my favorite character development in the movie.
I liked him in the movie better than the book.
That was the one thing. Well, in ways. The movie did the character arc way better, but I love the resolve. I still hate that they got rid of just the main plot line, because the fact that in the book, Darren was the last living relative of the Rockford family, and so the card actually wound up going to him anyway.
Which ended up not paying out because his parents made him give the money to charity.
Yeah, they donated it to the, I think part of it was for the Rockford Museum, which then also had a skate park built onto it. There was so much lovely bow tying at the end of the book that I thought it just made it feel like you had invested all of this time. Here's all your loose ends being tied up very nicely, one after the other. And the book just slaps this mess of a stack of papers in front and just says, somewhere in there is the ending.
You mean the movie?
I don't read. I don't nouns either, apparently.
Apparently.
Allegedly.
The one change that... So a lot of changes I didn't like. I hated Melissa. Oh my goodness.
Was her name Melissa in the movie?
Yes.
It was.
Okay.
They never really addressed the name.
Yeah, it wasn't until they were already in the hotel room that they were like, Melissa.
Yeah, because it's just, oh, this is Griffin's sister. Which, in the book, he doesn't have a sister.
Or at least not one that we know of.
No, and Melissa was this super shy girl that was so excited to be part of a group of something that she vowed to be awesome. And she was
And
awesome.
she was.
And Melissa is the worst.
Oh my gosh.
She is worse than Swindle. I stand by it.
I like how they get out Deus Ex Machina style from the first attempt to try and steal the baseball card back, all because she was in the back alley, and she was younger. She was the younger sister. She must have still been in middle school.
Yeah, she's 7th grade.
She disables the security system and does everything that she did do in the book, but they just didn't have her being a part of the original heist crew in the movie, which is just kind of stupid.
It was really dumb.
Jerk older brother, he doesn't realize or accept the value of his own little sister.
But also, as soon as she did join the team, I kind of understood because she's the worst.
Imagine that. It's like, yeah, at first I was thinking, how could you be so rude to that little girl? And then you meet her and you're like, oh my God, throw her in a fire. She's awful.
I understand now. We're there.
And so the plot, it starts in media res in the middle of the wedding while they're chasing an action figure. And so I was convinced.
And you're like, I thought this was supposed to be about a baseball card. What's with this action figure?
Yes!
Hold on, I still can't get the image out of my mind of Sarah leaning down, looking into this little girl's face and just says, you're an irredeemable piece of crap. It's still in my head and it's not leaving at all.
I'm not that mean.
You were crapping on that child for like 3 minutes straight.
Okay, we will get to all of my points of conflict with her.
But yes, in media res.
And that's where everyone decided they hated Griffin, except for David. He waited until the high school, so you gave him the benefit of the doubt.
I didn't give him the benefit of the doubt. I was more focusing, I think, on writing down the note on my notepad here saying, that cake definitely exploded.
It did.
Yep.
Yeah, that was rigged with, there's no, honestly, the bride, she was a little upset about the action figure on top of her cake. Imagine how pissed off she'd be when she finds out there's actually explosives baked into her cake.
She did overly freak out about
I mean, Bridezilla is a TV show for a reason.
Fair. And she did come across as that. So we talked about the I Got It and how they found the baseball card and they take it to Swindle's, and instead of it being...
Well, let me give the movie one praise. Since we're still at the beginning one praise that I want to give it is I really did like the graphics. I love the way that they did the introductions of each character and the talking of the different areas where we're talking about like the planning, the heist and whatnot, where you had the whoosh sound effects and the graphics would fly in behind the character, giving it that sort of a feel to it. That's the level of stuff that I would do.
It felt very Spy Kids.
It did, and it felt very Nickelodeon's-esque, but it was something that I love doing that in videos that I edit, and I love seeing it when other people do it because I appreciate the work that goes into it, and I just loved it. But that being said, the lower third, in the book, Griffin was the man with the plan, always. The man with the plan. It was those words always together. It was very important that it was the man with the plan because it was bought into and paid into multiple different ways of talking about, how can I not have a plan? I'm the man with the plan and I don't know what to do, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and clearly it's a very popular nickname because several people call him that.
Exactly, but in the movie, Griffin is the brains.
And he doesn't have any, so I'm confused.
Yeah, no. You want to talk about the little sister being irredeemable, I would get right into Griffin Bing's face and just spit in his face and just says, no one likes you. And then I would say a whole bunch of words that you would replace with Doberman sound effects.
Fair. So they get rid of Tom, who works with Swindle, which is fine. I get it. I don't know. Tom had a really big part to play in the book when I went back and thought about it. For a random side character, I feel like we interacted with Tom more than we did with Swindle.
I think you did. There was more, I mean, it's called screen time in a movie, but I guess page time? I don't know.
More time.
There's much more time spent on getting to know or at least talking about the Tom character. Even if you weren't learning anything about him, he just existed as a character in the scenes in the book much more often. Yeah, that's right.
Just like the book, he offers $10 for it, but Griffin instead starts a bidding war with him, which I guess he's older, so it makes sense that a 6th grader doesn't know what haggling is. But he gets him up to $350, and I feel like at that point, they should be like, something's up. You started with $10, but now we're at 350.
I think he realized something was up and managed to get him up to 300 and was like, that's probably about as much as this card is actually worth. That should be fine.
And then cut to the next scene where he's walking through the kitchen in his silk pajamas, so that way the audience really knows for sure that this kid is a piece of Doberman sound.
They are are monogrammed silk pajamas.
And as soon as he walks in, I thought to myself immediately, are those silk pajamas? And I just left it there. He watches the news, sees the things, runs over to Ben's house in his pajamas. Ben's already watching the news too. Oh no, he read a newspaper. That's what it was. And Ben was watching the news, and then Ben sees that, and then they have a whole exchange. Griffin says, don't worry, I got a plan. And then you have that short pause, and then Ben looks over and touches his pajamas and says, are those silk? He says, yeah, I like the way they feel, or I like the way they breathe, whatever.
I like the way they breathe.
It wouldn't have gotten that far if I was directing the movie, because I would have come flying in from off screen and just punched the kid right in the face. Ah!
David does not hurt children in real life.
No. David is very kind to kids. I give kids the benefit of the doubt, unless they're wearing silk pajamas when I see them. Silk pajamas is a fight on sight.
Remember, don't wear silk pajamas around David.
But on a side note, I don't think there should ever be a situation where David is near a child that is in silk pajamas. What context would that be?
That is a good point.
That would be an interesting situation, just period, by itself.
Yeah, no, what's worse? The fact that I was near the kid in silk pajamas in the first place, or the fact that as soon as I see it, I just go and start beating the crap out of him.
Remind me not to buy your children silk pajamas when you have a family, David.
Oh no, my kids can have silk pajamas because I know that I'm going to be the one that's paying for it. And my kid's going to walk into school every single day in slow-mo and be everyone's friend and buy Latvian hair cream for the school bully. No, he's going to be great.
Yeah, he's going to be in band.
Which for the longest time, I wondered if they were going to keep that drug reference. And then he was like, no, it's just hair cream. And I was like, okay. I was wondering if you were just going to let that slide, Nickelodeon.
I thought it was going to be alcohol.
I knew it was going to be something embarrassing because it was so illicit with the handoff that he threw him the bag in the middle of the hallway. He opens it up kind of timidly looking around. And it wasn't like immediately hide the bag, there's something illegal in there. It was more of I want to make sure this is the right thing, but I don't want anyone else to know that I have it. I didn't think drugs right off because it would have made Griffin not only the biggest piece of crap in the school, but also the worst drug dealer ever. It's like, hey, Joey, guess what? Got that new marijuana for you. Smoke it good. And he keeps on walking.
But clearly he has dirt on everyone, so he can just be like, Principal, please, we all know about your affair with Mrs. Janet. Something like that.
Mrs. Janet.
You're welcome.
Principal, please, I'm your drug dealer too. You know this already.
I like how he just walked in there and goes like, no, Mr. Principal. Like the guy's name is actually Mr. Principal. He was made for the job that he's in. Mr. Principal, no, everything's great.
I changed my name to Principal.
Send Janet my love.
When they talk to Swindle, he's like, haha, you got Swindle, blah, blah, blah. In the book, Ben has legitimate qualms with doing something super illegal and trying to break into the Emporium to steal his bag. But in the movie, Ben's like, oh, I don't think we should do this. And then Griffin's like, nah, we should do this. And Ben like shuts up and does it.
Ben's like, okay. Yeah, in the book, they don't talk for, what, like a week?
Yeah, and that's a big deal for sixth graders.
And then Ben comes back in the movie and just says, I have an idea immediately. Let's do crime.
We're high schoolers. Crime's okay.
Because it wasn't until Griffin in the book admitted that his family was going to move away because of their financial troubles that Ben was like, oh no, you are worth more to me than a crime. That was a super touching moment in between best friends. The movie just glosses over it. Griffin's like, nah, we're doing this. And then they do it.
I'll do crime for you, buddy.
Let's also not gloss over that, yeah, sure, theft was the crime, but also the level of just cyber crimes that his little sister committed in such a short period of time, from like fraudulent reservations of the hotel room to charging the man's credit card with all their stuff. They got their comeuppance. They got their revenge on Swindle very, very quickly, and it just kept on going.
Makes you wonder what she does in her free time.
Brings down the freaking Latvian government. Who knows?
Gotta get that Latvian hair cream.
Gotta get it somehow. They keep the prices low by crashing their economy.
Secretly, Melissa's actually the one that gets everything, and then Griffin just hands it to people because he's in high school and she's not. So they get the team together, and in the book, I'm trying to remember, in the book he had a lot easier time convincing them because he gave like this whole speech and whatever. They were like, okay, let's do this. And then Darren overheard everything and basically blackmailed them into being part of the team.
Yeah!
Darren arises out of a mound of deflated volleyballs and is like, I've heard everything.
That was such a reveal in the book, but in the movie it was just like they invited him along. Come on.
Yeah, he was considered from the very beginning.
Like, oh yeah, we need the bully too.
You saw Gibby shove your best friend into a locker and you're like, you know who we need? That guy.
That guy.
He clearly has no cares about his best friend. He doesn't actually care about keeping Ben there for his own sake. He just wants a sidekick. And he's like, he's a little bit of a narcissist.
Little bit.
But so in the movie, I kind of like the movie scene a little bit better because it was kind of funny. funny because he tries a friendship speech and then he's like, okay, all of you have a favor on me. And they were like, still no. And then he's like, okay, I'll give you a cut of the money. And they were like, okay, that's it.
Well, it wasn't even Griffin that did that. Griffin didn't have the plan. Ben was the one that stepped up and said 25 grand. And everyone's like, in. That was a funny moment. And honestly, for being the brains, he's an idiot.
He's an idiot. So the first thing they do is surveillance, and apparently Ben and Griffin had been doing surveillance prior to the meeting, and they were like, okay, so he leaves to eat at the same place every day, which is weird.
People are notorious for falling into routines.
I know, but the same restaurant every day.
This is the guy that pushes nuns down hills. He's gonna get his sandwich from that one sandwich shop.
That's true.
Oh, no. It was Mushu. It was very important because they used the term and drove it into the ground that he went to go get Mushu from this one Mushu place that makes the best Mushu in town because he likes his Mushu. Mushu.
He's gonna get his sandwich.
So instead of them having to figure out what the code is, which I kind of liked in the book because they were literally staring at this TV, and then the dad comes in, he's like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, homework?
Yes! We're trying to figure out what the code is. There was a whole fantastic moment there.
Anyway, so instead, they just have 30 seconds to turn off the alarm before it actually...
Hold on, back to the Mushu. We see Gibby, I really need to look up what the actor's name is, but Gibby moves a car. There's a guy who's taking up 2 parking spaces. He moves a car so that way he can park his piece of crap van, throws Ariana Grande onto a roof, so has exhibited superhuman strength. But when he straight up tries to steal Swindle's Mushu, Swindle, without even flexing, without even budging, holds onto the bag and levels him. I'm wondering, what was the bag made of? First of all, because it didn't rip.
I'm wondering why Swindle's superhuman strength didn't come up again.
And why that never came up, yes.
So Amanda cancels the alarm and whatever, and so they're having to search all over because the card isn't in the case, whatever. And so Savannah and Darren are going to do all of these things to try to just make him take more time. The first thing they do is I did like this one, asking Swindle what is plaguing society, and Swindle says too many news reporters and pushes Savannah into the fountain.
And yeah, and then straight up, what's the term? Hold on a second, I wrote it down. Assault. Straight up assault. What's plaguing the world? Too many news reporters. Shoves her into a fountain.
I know, that was dumb on his part, because it's like, dude, he could just use that as evidence.
The law can't touch me.
But I did like the witty comeback. And then Darren pretends to rob him. And so, like you said, he manages to hang on. But the other thing is Amanda is in screen the entire mugging. But Swindle doesn't notice her. She's literally 2 feet behind Swindle, but Swindle doesn't notice her. And then immediately walks up to Darren and starts giving him notes while Swindle is in earshot.
Man's focused on his Mushu.
But then the third thing is the nun thing, where Sam pretends to be... No.
Jeanette McCurdy.
No.
Savannah.
Okay, that's what it is. I was like, did they seriously name her Sam in this movie too? Okay, Savannah pretends to be a blind nun and forces him to wheel her somewhere. He straight up tries to commit murder. Can we talk about that?
Hold on a second. He pushes her a good distance too, because the whole time I'm wondering, wow, of all those excuses, those attempts to get him distracted, the nun works?
But then he takes her into the middle of this one road intersection where it's downhill and pushes her, and cars are coming at her. She straight up could have died. And then when she gets back to her friends, it's a punchline. That girl almost died. That is not a punchline.
No. See, people don't die in Nickelodeon movies. That's Disney. Disney that only does that. They kill parents. People don't die in Nickelodeons.
No, they just use them as punchlines.
They wear their plot armor and they wear it well.
But Darren has a bad feeling about the nun thing, which instead of helping Savannah, he goes back to Swindle's and was like, hey, I feel like he doesn't even tell them why they're there. They're just like, hey, we're looking for the card. And he's like, okay, I'll help you look for the card.
I like when he walks in and scares the crap out of Ariana Grande's character. And he goes, I thought you were a burglar. I am a burglar.
There are certain lines that are really good, but something happens, and so Swindle comes back, and so they have to spend the entire time doing that game you used to play in the supermarket as a kid, where you were like playing hide and seek with each other, and they're like walking around.
Doing it in a giant room full of glass surfaces that you could see reflections.
I thought of that. I was like, there's no way he does not see their reflections.
He could see through the glass displays.
This shouldn't have worked.
No, and it didn't, as far as I'm concerned.
He's superhuman and he's super oblivious in the same breath.
Yes.
So instead of there being a safe, they just have a hidden door that Ben trips. Is like, oh, cool. cool, clumsy sidekick, woo. And so instead of immediately running out, the kids spend precious seconds just posing for this movie poster that never happened, just staring at this card. All of them, it is like audibly awkward for 5 seconds of just watching them watch the card like they've never seen it before.
Gotta do things to kill time so that way Swindle can get back with his Mushu and talk to the big-nosed Frenchman.
Yeah. He, instead of doing an auction like normal, from the beginning, he's like, oh, I'm taking direct buyers. And then this French dude with a big nose, who I legitimately thought was going to be a fake person.
Oh my god, yeah.
Because his nose is massive or whatever. But he's like, I'm doing an auction and such, whatever, and you should bring your card. He's like, yeah, I'll do that. And I don't remember how the kids got out. I think they literally just walked out the back door. Oh yeah, and there was the thing where when that's happening, Griffin puts the card back.
Gotta get to the runtime of the movie, you know? Gotta be a certain amount of time, apparently.
Yeah, and he's like, no, I've got a plan. This is a genius. If we did this right now, he would know who took it. I'm like, what is he gonna do? Tell the police? Neither of you would press charges because you would both go to jail. But he's like, no, we gotta make him do it for free. So clearly we have to do a super elaborate plan because we have gotten the card far too early. And unlike the book where they go to whatever and find out that the safe is at his house, and so they have to do a second heist, they're like, nah, gotta pad that runtime.
I like that moment in the book. The thing about Ben is that one of the big plot points in the book was Ben's narcolepsy. There are these inopportune times, extremely awful moments where Ben just straight up falls asleep.
And they foreshadow it really well because Griffin keeps being like, wow, I wish I could fall asleep like him. He just falls asleep like a rock.
And when they go do the heist on Swindle's Emporium, which I think we need to address the name of the shop too, because in the book, it was S. Wendell Palomino's Emporium, and in the movie, it was just called Swindle's Emporium.
Swindle. It's on the back end.
Oh my god. I don't know anyone in their right mind who would shop at a place called Swindle's Emporium.
No one in their right mind.
No one. But Ben's narcolepsy was such an important point. In the book, he finally wakes up in that crate or whatever that they addressed to Palomino, and when he's able to get out of it, turns off the alarm, they get in there, boom, safe is gone. They're like, uh-oh, we need to get back to the drawing board because reasons. But in the movie, they're holding the card in their hand, they pose for their picture, and as they're leaving, they overhear the conversation with Big Nose French guy about the auction happening. And then Griffin's like, ooh, I have an idea. We're going to wait until the last second and we're going to make them give it to us because that's better.
I love it. I'm so glad that we all did this plan that Griffin planned for Griffin to be like, oh, we can't do this plan.
We've completed the plan, but we're going to stop this plan that we've already completed to do a different plan to get the card that I have in my hand.
And so instead of giving Griffin crap for that, they're just like, oh yeah, Griffin is a genius. He's so smart.
You know, whack that kid upside the head.
You're so smart. We're so happy to have you. Yes, we do what you say.
So the new plan starts off with Amanda goes to this nerd's house that has been obsessed with Amanda and whatever. And can we talk about how she has high-tech glasses now that have one-way video and two-way audio?
Oh, yeah.
In some really super normal-looking glasses.
Well, I mean, Griffin has silk pajamas, so obviously their allowance must be like...
This is true. This is very true. I guess it's to be said, the parents gave the kids one option. All right, you can either have new pajamas or you can have a new piece of spy gear. What do you want?
And so Griffin took pajamas and Melissa took the spyware.
And she was younger, so she had to get the second option, so she had to take the spyware. It's like, but Mom, I wanted pajamas. You get what you get, you don't put your fit. Slaps her. The movie sounds a lot more interesting in my brain.
But can we talk about how Eddie straight up grabs the sword off the thing and attacks Amanda while speaking Klingon? And she just gets up like that didn't happen? When the camera was giving us a vantage of what Amanda's view was, I was terrified. I was legitimately terrified by this.
Kudos to that kid, though, for shooting his shot. Because I am definitely not brave enough to when I'm trying to court a female that I just put my entire self on display in such a fabulous fashion as that in an attempt to make her actually want to stick around. Now, that all being said, it worked.
I'm kind of glad you're the person that doesn't think first off. The first thing I should do is physically assault this woman to show how cool I am.
It's like, oh, this female has entered my area. I need to do a flash of some sort of a melee ritual so she knows she cannot leave. If she does, I will attack her.
And so this is the part where, okay, so the earpiece goes out, so she can't hear them, but they can see and hear everything she does. And so she goes full nerd and knows all these things about these super expensive action figures and whatever. When she gets back to the car, everyone makes fun of her for this, and she's the only one who has a backstory, apparently.
Amanda the Mutant.
Yeah, she apparently was used to be super nerdy, and so she moved away, and she was like, I'm not going to do that anymore because people made fun of me. And I'm like, that's totally fine. That's pretty normal. They were still the worst about it. They're terrible friends.
Well, that's just it, though, is they weren't friends. They're the team. They were never friends at the beginning. They were all in it for the money.
They never really address Amanda the Mutant after this one mention of it. They're just kind of like, oh, that's a thing, and then continue on.
Throughout the movie, they're just like, yeah, she's cool. She's a nerd. We got 3 of those on our team now.
Only Ben is like, oh, that makes her really cool. Everyone else is laughing at her. Like, y'all are the worst, actually.
High school's the worst times of your life, I guess.
Better than middle school. So
she has to go on a date with this dude that just assaulted her with a sword so she can borrow the super rare action figure.
Can we also address that this quote-unquote date they went on was her standing in his house for 20 minutes?
Well, no, she has to go on a date afterwards.
Oh, that's right. That was her showing up unannounced, and then in order to get it, she agreed to go on a date. That's right.
Let's go over line by line all of the stuff they do to prepare. Darren makes something with the blowtorch. That never comes up again. I have no idea what he made.
What?
In the montage scene.
Oh, sure.
I don't know what that was. And then Griffin tries to disguise himself with Ben. Savannah gets Amanda used to theater rope thingies. Swindle books the second finest hotel room. Savannah tries to teach Darren acting. While Melissa's over there, she puts Swindles on the customer most wanted list, maps out blueprints of the hotel, and photoshops fake baseball cards with Swindle's face on it.
And sends 10,000 copies to their home printer for a job that will be completed in roughly 6 years.
And since it's just a home printer, you're going to have to cut all those apart.
Unbelievable portion. Honestly, that was what took me out of the entire movie. Everything else was believable up to that point. But when she sent 10,000 copies of something to a home printer and expected it to be done before she graduated college, no.
That's a lot of pieces of paper to cut.
And she did, because later you see it.
Exactly. Foot, meat, ground. I am not believing it anymore. Imagine the paper cuts.
But I feel like there was definitely a mismatch on what everyone did. Melissa's apparently pulling her weight and performing miracles. Literally. So Melissa hacks into the hotel, gets the group the Crown Suite on Swindle's credit card, and puts him to the basement suite.
And he never talks about it. He never complains.
He just accepts it. Dude, I would be pissed off. I'd be going back up, hey, what happened? And then they would be able to find out that, oh, 2 rooms are charged on the same credit card. That should have been a red flag.
Now let's talk about some portions of the lead up to the heist. First of all, when they're all getting ready, one of the first things they do when they get into this new lovely hotel room is Gibby wants to go take a shower.
Oh my gosh, that scene. Okay, right before we get there.
Okay.
Ben and Griffin are getting to the penthouse and they see their dad, and their answer is to hide on a glass elevator. He was so incompetent, he did not see the children in the glass elevator the entire way.
Come with me and you'll see we live in a land of pure imagination.
But yeah, Darren is like, I'm gonna go take a shower. And Savannah's like, oh, we should practice stuff and whatever.
Walks into the bathroom behind Gibby and then screams and comes back out. And the only thing you're sitting there is like, wow, that high schooler just flashed the other high schooler. Oh, Nickelodeon, you dog.
And it's played like a joke. I don't know who to be mad with. Savannah, who is following a dude who's like, I'm gonna go take a bath, or the dude who just takes off his clothes in front of the girl even though she's right there.
It is all her fault because he was very clear about the fact that he's about to go take a shower. He walks into the bathroom, she's following him, and he's like, all right, I'm taking a shower, drops his clothes, and she's like, oh, you mean without your clothes on, and leaves.
But at the same time, I feel like the dude could be like, get out. But no, he's just like, straight up, I'm just gonna flash you, and we're not gonna talk about it. But that was sure funny.
Well, we've been introduced to Darren as a no-nonsense character. I think
I don't know.
Expecting any more than that from him is just too much.
There are so many jokes at Savannah's expense that aren't funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that just kind of don't work.
You want to know another thing that took me out of the realism of this movie?
Go for it.
Ariana Grande gets into the air duct on the roof of of the hotel.
And it goes straight down.
And it goes straight to the basement.
That's not... Yeah, no, I didn't even really think about that because by that point in the movie, I'd stopped paying full attention.
But also, Melissa taps into the surveillance of the hotel and apparently has Swindle's car bugged because she knows exactly when he's arriving.
That does get glossed over.
She looks at a red dot, is like, oh, he's turning, he's coming to the hotel. It's like, when did you bug his car? Do you understand how many federal offenses you are committing?
Yeah, that does get glossed over that she has tracking devices on Swindle somehow. This movie is just weird.
We'll visit you in jail, sweetie.
No, we won't.
You won't be able to. She's too much of a security risk.
Clearly.
Have fun in solitary confinement, sweetie.
You might sneak in a Nokia and she somehow just shuts down the power grid for the entire Northeast.
So Amanda pretends to be an esthetician and goes to the French dude with the big nose and basically makes a cast of his face.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the way casting works, if she had actually made a cast of his face, he wouldn't have been able to breathe.
Nickelodeon, remember.
But look at me, I am glowing. Look at me, touch my face. Touch it, just touch my face.
His face honestly looks horrible afterwards. He has red dots all over his face.
You're implying that his face looked good beforehand?
It looked better than that. His face looks so red and oh, it's bad. It's bad. I can't believe he was like, I look good. But anyway, Nickelodeon.
He had to because plot.
Savannah and Darren use the action figure to swindle again. He gives them $10 for the red one. It's like, oh, it's the one with blue hair that's special, not the red one. But they pretend to be Swedish people. And I feel like at some point Swindle should have been like, where are your parents? Because you do not look like adults. There's no way you came to this conference yourself.
Yeah, at no point in time when he's interacting with them does he go, you look kind of like the news reporter / the dude that tried to mug me / the nun.
We gotta remember, guys, he's an adult in a Nickelodeon movie. Therefore, he is...
Oh, so he's incompetent. Right.
Incompetent is a nicer word than what I was gonna say.
He has the action figure and whatever. Griffin puts on the face putty thing that they make, which not how that works, but okay. So he pretends to be the auction guy and gets a massage with Swindle.
Well, he gets a massage, Swindle gets beaten up.
And before that, Swindle is going down the elevator. Can we talk about how Melissa physically assaults Swindle over and over?
Oh my God.
And over?
Oh, no. She doesn't physically assault him. I love how apparently she's able to get such access to this elevator that she's able to overcome mechanical safety features that are able to change direction of the elevator so fast and so drastically that he can not only slam him into the ground, but slam him into the ceiling. I'm surprised he didn't start going side to side with the amount of power that she has over that thing.
I'm surprised he didn't get knocked out.
Nickelodeon, remember.
The other thing is that scene happens way too long because she does it like 5 times and then all the other characters notice and walk over from what they're doing and they start laughing at it. I'm like, this isn't funny.
No, this is abuse. Why are you laughing?
At that point, just murder him. Just send the elevator all the way up until it flies all the way through the building and lands a few city streets over. They go over to his body, take the card off of it, they walk away from the explosion like a bunch of cool guys without looking at it.
No, David, it's a kid's movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He'd still be alive if he landed that far away.
True. That is one of the things. Melissa takes it way too far. All of this way too far. But Griffin gets a massage, and like you said, I don't know how he did this because he was pretending to be the auction guy. He's like, oh, I picked a masseuse for you. And he somehow knows that there's a terrible masseuse on staff that does like karate moves instead of massaging. That was something that never got addressed. How did he find this person?
Griffin, do you and your parents vacation here sometimes?
Or it was just a lovely coincidence.
Send me your worst masseuse.
It's like, hi, yeah, Spa, I'd like my friend to get the absolute beat out of him. Do you have a package for that?
Doberman sound.
So another reason I hate Melissa is... What?
It was the transition. So anyway, another reason why I hate that piece of crap child. Anyway, another reason why this 7th grader needs to die in a hole.
So, oh, what's his face? I'm forgetting. Griffin.
You can't transition now.
I can't speak either, apparently.
Don't worry, we've already established that this little girl is the spawn of Satan. Continue.
So Griffin, the French dude has a comically large nose, and the putty apparently starts melting and makes his nose longer and longer.
I don't know if you guys have ever been in a massage therapy room, but they are not that hot.
They really are.
That's also not how that works. That and the putty really shouldn't melt. If it held the face shape, it really shouldn't melt like that. that.
There are so many things I feel like the writer of this movie hasn't done for himself. And it's not just, oh, they're kids, they're dumb. I feel like he honestly thinks that's how these things work.
He's not in a sauna, he's getting a massage.
This whole movie reeks of an entire boardroom of writers instead of just one writer. It's so disjointed.
I think it's more, that would be funny, let's do that.
I don't know. I feel like every single time they couldn't come up with an idea, like Jimmy took the script into the bathroom, wiped his foot, and was like, ah, yes. So what we're gonna have happen is the masseuse is going to beat him up, and then his nose is gonna get long, and then the entire room full of a bunch of old white guys starts laughing.
It's a great idea.
So Ben does the normal thing. He's like, oh my gosh, his nose is melting off. And so he tells him to abort, and Melissa just straight up slaps Ben 3 times.
Oh yeah, Edna Mode style. Pull yourself together.
What? Why?
And they're like, no. See, this is all part of the plan. He's gonna get caught, and then they're gonna throw him out of the high rise. There was not a lot of thought going into it.
There was not a lot of thought.
There's not. And so Ben keeps doing that, and Melissa keeps ignoring him. And then at one point, Melissa's like, oh, Griffin, you should abort. What?
Oh, Griffin, by the way, your nose is melting.
Now think about that though. The nose melting in the movie is the equivalent of Pitch's ankle spraining in the book. They all were thinking, oh, we should just call it off now, we should just call it off. But they're all like, no, we can keep going, we can power through this kind of a thing. It would have been, I guess, too suspicious if they had decided, oh, my nose is less French, and he just gets up and leaves. They were trying to see whatever they could do to keep the heist going. What did they even accomplish in that entire conversation?
What they accomplish is the setup for the Russian dude.
That's right. Okay.
The French guy, Savannah and Darren have to distract the French guy so he's not walking around. So Swindle's like, wait, there's 2 of you. And I honestly found the scene hilarious because Savannah and Darren pretend to be this basically white trash wearing Hawaiian shirts.
And they have this big old domestic.
And it's so funny. It's so good because Savannah's like, you watched that woman, you had eyes on her. And Darren's like, no, I didn't. And so the French dude's like, excuse me, this is my elevator. And he gets on the elevator and they follow him. And Savannah shuts it down. It's like, we're not leaving until we have this conversation. And the French dude feels so awkward.
Wait, what's my character?
Felt very bad for that man.
This scene. Apparently, having a domestic is the only experience these writers have ever had because I felt it was so real to life. It was hilarious.
Oh, wow. That was a hit at home right there.
It's true, though.
This movie was so unbelievable, aside from the point where 2 adults are fighting about domestic squabbles, and it's the only way that the writers were able to write anything believable. Oh my god. That's just mean.
But it's true.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not true. It's just mean.
And so that's the point where Darren falls in love with acting, and he's actually kind of adorable.
Well, he was always Gibby deep down inside.
True. Anyway, Ben pretends to be a pool boy, and I'm not actually sure why they did this, other than to have Ben get caught by the dude. But he's a pool boy.
Yeah, especially since Melissa has eyes and ears everywhere, and they don't really need him to do that.
I think part of the plan was for him to get caught, so that way he does go storming up to the penthouse suite.
It is. But what does that say about Ben when your only job is to mess up?
Which he then promptly does.
He's the incompetent idiot side character.
So the Russian dude buys, quote unquote, the action figure, and he doesn't open the box, and he's like, hey, don't open the suitcase because I'm not opening the box. And the dude's like, okay, whatever, you're really intimidating. Why didn't Swindle take it back? I mean, I know he goes up to wherever.
So the intimidating Russian dude told him not to.
Because he's an idiot.
Because he didn't have the suitcase when he went up to the penthouse, so he went down to the basement, put the suitcase up, and then went back up.
It's true.
Why did he not open it at any other time?
Do you really want to know why? Because I know why. Plot. Moving on.
Okay, so another thing. Amanda does the whole goes down to the air vent, right?
I jumped the gun way much on that one. I just really wanted to crap on it.
She switches the red and blue action figures, but she doesn't take the card.
Oh, it was in his suit coat pocket.
Was it?
At the very end, that's where he pulls it out from. So assuming he was in the same place the whole time, he had it in his jacket pocket. If they were just gonna steal it, then they would have taken it from the Emporium.
I know, they would have done the logical thing and have this movie end an hour earlier.
Oh my god, if they were doing the logical thing, they would have gone to the police at the very beginning. Actually, if they were doing the logical thing, they would have Googled the card on the way to the sports shop.
And not sold it to Swindle.
Which is another thing. What 14-year-old kid is like, I know where to go. I'm going to go sell it to a pawn shop. I don't think I've been in a pawn shop in my life.
I have.
But also, a pawn shop that has the worst reviews ever on the internet, as you saw during Melissa's little montage. Horrible reviews, but they're like, I know where we go. This trustworthy man named Swindle.
Griffin's so dumb. And he never gets crap for being so dumb.
No, because he's the brains.
My gosh. And has no emotion and is never wrong ever.
He's got emotion. Did you see the way he cared for those silk pajamas?
They go up to the penthouse, and this is the big reveal, right? And you notice we haven't been comparing this to the book at all because it deviates so much. There is no comparisons anymore.
We've just been crapping on the movie for the last hour.
There is no way to compare this to the book.
At no point do they go to a hotel or do any acting or other than that one kid that charms a little old man across the street.
Which was lovely. He plays backgammon.
He thinks he's acting. Let him have his dream.
I could sum up the book in like 3 lines. They get swindled, they try to rob the store, they rob his house. Griffin gets arrested.
Yeah, here, now let's come back to finish crapping on the movie in just a moment, while I ask some questions about the book to see if I can get some clarity from 2 other people that read it recently. What child, in their right mind, if they are stealing a baseball card's first thought is let's burn into the safe with a blowtorch?
One whose father uses a blowtorch, and so that's normal in his life, and he's probably seen movies where that's the thing to do. That honestly felt realistic to me, because instead of being like, oh, let's crack the safe, he's like, oh, I've seen movies, this is what you do. And I also have access to a blowtorch.
But also, the way that they described the safe was a small one that sat on the floor. It might only have a square foot, maybe, interior size. As soon as they burn through that blowtorch, everything inside that safe is now ashes.
Yeah, but he's a 6th grader. He doesn't get that.
That's true. They were younger there, so I guess, okay, we'll chalk it up to the man with the plan being an idiot. But
That's why he's not the brains in the book.
exactly. He's the man with the plan. As much as the plan sucks, he's the man who had it.
Hey, they stole the baseball cards, so I mean...
They did.
But they actually give him crap for it. I like that the characters actually give him crap for it. Like, Savannah straight up is like, you're a terrible person for this.
My biggest question, and I don't know where it came from. In the book, one of the things they talk about is that Palomino was released from the hospital. What happened that put him in the hospital?
I'm pretty sure it was implied shock that he doesn't have the baseball card anymore, and he was going to have millions on millions of dollars. And so he either had a heart attack or a stroke because he was in shock.
Or he was attacked by that big German shepherd.
Yeah, that would be a little scary. I just think it's an implied shock of some sort.
But the last point, near the very end of the movie, Griffin, with one of his just moments of absolute brilliance to make sure he does not have the card on him nor in his house, sticks it in an envelope and mails it to a location TBD, does not tell any of the other members of the team to keep everything safe. And honestly, the smartest thing that child did was that. It was really kind of just moment of absolute genius and brilliance. Mails it off there. And honestly, I read it in 7th grade. I forgot about it when I was reading through here. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together like, oh yeah, he's obviously mailing it to the old Rockford house, because it didn't even cross my mind. But at the very end, goes over to the Rockford house and pulls it out of the mailbox. You're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. And you're wondering, but what's going to happen next? And then when in the book, all the floodlights come on, I'm wondering how long were they set up around that mailbox waiting for that child to come retrieve the card? Because they had to have known it was there.
When I read that, I assumed that they were doing surveillance on Griffin's house. And then when they figured out where he was going, they moved people over there. That was my assumption. Because he only goes after it 3 days later, a week later. They're still surveillancing that kid.
Yes, he waited almost a week. At least the book described, gave the kid at least the benefit of the doubt, that he was as careful as he could to make sure that there wasn't anyone watching, no cars in the streets, no cruisers or anything.
I mean, but he is a 6th grader. I don't really trust.
And I think he even left through the back of his house. But I don't know. It was really weird. It was one of the weaker points where all the floodlights come on, and I'm like, how did that kid, who was being so careful to make sure he's not being followed, not see in this neighborhood street, presumably lit up with just a whole bunch of streetlights, didn't see the team of police officers waiting to arrest him?
They honestly, it could be one of those towns where the streetlights only come on for a few hours and then at like 3 a.m. they're off to save power.
That's true.
It does come across as a smaller town.
Cedarville, New York.
Could still be a small town.
I wasn't saying that it's not. I was just pointing out the fact that I remembered what the town was called because I'm so proud of myself. But yeah, switching back over the book for just a moment, those were some of the points I wanted to bring up. And it was just, okay, here's another, just one more, since we're still in the book, and I just want to ask this other question. They bank on Swindle, Swindle Palomino, being the biggest piece of, pardon my French, that they know to get him out of the house. If they buy some hockey tickets and send them to a fake Uncle Archie, he will take those tickets, throw away the card, and go attend the hockey game. At first, I was like, oh, you know what? That's kind of brilliant. But the more I thought about it, and the more that any logical adult would have thought about it, especially someone who would be stealing something like this, would be like, oh, when I get to this hockey game, what if this is one ticket where I'd be sitting among all of Archie's family. And they know that I did not buy the ticket for the seat that I'm sitting in because they did.
I didn't even think about that.
That's brilliant. That would have been amazing.
That would have been a comeuppance.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because anytime I know of anyone gifting tickets, it's, hey, I've got a ticket for you and me.
Yeah, it was one of the other moments where I was just like, it's another weaker point of the thing. But with the story as a whole, it was rather enjoyable. It made for a good read. I mean, it's only, 250 pages, I think? It wasn't horrible. I think overall, an average person could probably read this book in a few hours. I'm not normal. It took me over a week.
Honestly, it took me forever, too. I was counting by 50 pages. I'm a slow reader, though.
I listened to the audiobook, so it didn't take me much time.
I did too. I read the first chapter and I'm like, I can't do this. I found the audiobook and I downloaded it and I just had it read it to me while I was going through the pages. I had the book read to me.
Aw, that's kind of cute.
Thank you. I don't read, but I do watch movies. And speaking of movies, let's get back to this one.
So it's the big reveal. It's the big comeuppance scene where they reveal their master plan.
Today's episode brought to you by the word comeuppance.
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 No tagline?
Get yours today.
There we go. That might be front of podcast material.
Comeuppance. Get yours today.
Nice.
Gracious.
So everyone has cleared out all their stuff, so it's not super obvious in the beginning. And he walks out into the balcony, and Griffin and Ben are just like waiting there, like a couple of pricks, not even looking for him, like looking out into the great expanse of the city as they bank on the fact that Swindle himself is paying for this view. Which I like how he's like, oh, he's gonna figure out that it was us that stole the card, but he's never gonna figure out we stole his credit card number. And we're also gonna explain our master plan to extort him, but he's not gonna do anything about that.
Yeah, he is, for lack of a better term, completely incompetent. He is a moron, an imbecile, a knucklehead McSpazatron.
It's almost like he's an adult in a Nickelodeon movie. Ben and Griffin are like, okay, we'll agree to switch priceless things. We'll switch an actual redheaded action figure for the baseball card.
And it's a bit dark. You can still count it as switching priceless things, but the redheaded action figure had a price tag put on it. It was like $60,000, whatever it was, $80,000. So that one, not nearly close to priceless. Still really expensive, but not priceless. The priceless thing that they were swapping it out for was Swindle's life.
It's honestly extortion. That's literally what it was.
It was not like a, here, you give me this thing, I give you that thing. It's like, no. I'll give you this thing, you give me that thing, you get to live. Deal?
So Swindle is like, no, so he tries to snatch it, and then they play a super immature game of catch, and then Ben is terrible at everything and screws everything up by throwing the toy behind him instead of at somebody, and so nobody catches it, and it lands on top of a wedding cake, and thus...
I loved that stupid moment of like, they're all just throwing it around, because that was one of my last notes on the movie, is did they really not have a contingency plan if this guy just straight up tried to steal the action figure back?
No.
But no. You get that lovely scene of everyone throwing it around there. You have all this monkey in the middle, lovely stuff, and then Ben takes and goes, haha, yeet, and just throws it off of the balcony. And it lands so perfectly.
You know what they never talk about?
What?
Whether or not the Russian guy is in on it and how they get the red-haired action figure back to the nerd kid.
They do.
Yeah, they do. You find out that the Russian guy's Sam's father.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, and he's an actor who does an acting coach
or
stuff.
something like that. Oh, yeah.
I managed to miss that.
You were right about the action figure, though. I really would have loved to see maybe an in-credit scene or something where they bring back the cake-encrusted $80,000 action figure.
Because she promised it would be mint condition still. But I would have loved that scene. That's true.
I wonder if maybe, just maybe, what might have happened was, yeah, so this heist, technically, we got 1.2 million or whatever for the card. We gave each of the heist members involved 25 grand, and we're going to give that other kid 80 grand because we destroyed his expensive action figure.
So he can buy another one.
Exactly. But yeah, no, that doesn't get explained because that was one of the notes that I made. And I actually went back and I crossed through it because later on, I was super confused because I'm like, what are the odds that they do this whole subplot with a red-headed action figure versus a blue-headed one? And here is this big, scary, hulking, scar-faced Russian man wearing this tight bikini at the pool who threatens this tiny little man into not checking the boxes for anything. Which, what are the odds that this terrifying human being is there to buy that one thing? And I'm like, wow, this has just so many just convenient plot points that they just run with. And then at the very end, when it turned out to be an acting coach all along, I was like, you know what, that makes sense, but that was one of the twists that I didn't see coming because I just chalked it up to this movie just being horrible at providing any context whatsoever. part that I didn't actually expect, that they had another guy in on the heist from the beginning. So when that was revealed, I was like, oh.
What were the chances that they actually had a competent adult was so unbelievable that we didn't see it coming?
Whoa, it's a good point.
How did they convince the competent adult to help them with this?
That's a good point.
It's Samantha's dad. They were like, oh, thanks, Daddy.
But those people knew that they were helping children commit crime.
Yep. I didn't say he was a responsible adult. I just said he was competent.
Okay, confident. Still running with how all of the adults in this universe where Swindle takes place are just absolute morons.
Okay, can we also talk about how they clearly bought the license for Call Me Maybe, but just the chorus?
Oh my god.
Because the masseuse,
Oh my
that's
god.
the thing where she passes the card to him, is like, call me maybe, and then in the elevator, it's music of Call Me Maybe,
And then at the wedding,
they just sing the chorus over and over and over.
it was just one of those infuriating moments of the song. It never actually gets to the opening. So it's like the beginning of Take On Me or something like that, where it never actually gets to the actual song itself. It's just that opening playing over and over again, just gives you horrible anxiety. That's what it felt like the entire time. Because they were just going, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, call me maybe. Hey, I just met you, and it just repeats.
Well, no, because they did and all the other boys try to chase me, but here's my number, call me maybe. And then they started over. It's just the chorus.
Did they really? I didn't even realize they did
Yeah.
that. I was bleeding from my ears at that point that I just assumed it was the same chorus line over and over.
I never realized how necessary the verses are to that song.
I don't like that song to begin with, so...
But just hearing the chorus was way worse than hearing it with the verses. It was so bad. It was hard to focus on what was going on in the scene because I kept just noticing it skip back to the beginning of the chorus.
But they get out of the wedding after absolutely ruining the wedding.
Oh, I also like how Griffin takes over the wedding.
Oh yeah, he says Uncle whoever from the old country, and everyone goes and...
No, it's like the one dude's like, I have a very important guest from the old country. It's clearly the super elderly woman who's about to stand up, and Griffin just pulls the mic. It's like, it's me! And the dad lets it happen.
It's like, no one knows this child.
What old country do you think you're from?
Whose man's is this?
They just let this happen.
But this child is able to get everyone to start going over and hugging Swindle.
Who has no pants at this point, who has his hair cut from a laser.
Oh yeah, forgot that happened too.
And then they start a conga line?
Well, yeah, that's weddings. That's a lot of weddings for you. Oh yeah, and then they're all reaching for the action figure as they're going to. Yeah, no, it was lovely. It was beautiful. It was everything that I wanted in a movie. Let's also go to one of the lines that was just mentioned in passing was when they are running into the ballroom for where the reception is taking place, and he goes through the snake pit area. He gets decked by Ben's dad's invention. And one of the lines that came out just later after all the resolution and the movie's wrapping up is that they are having no financial troubles anymore because they have orders coming in from around the country from police departments all over the place. And all I'm wondering is, was that a thinly veiled comment about police brutality, or what in the world was that?
It's 2013. I don't think that was their point, but it definitely aged poorly.
I was wondering, because I'm like, what in the world did that mean at the time? Who wrote that joke?
Someone that could see the future.
Yeah, no, it was obviously one of the Simpsons writers.
Yes.
It wasn't great. I didn't even think about that. At that point, I was so done. Fine. Whatever.
Oh no, at that point, you were just pat yourself on the back too loud because you'd made it through the entire movie, that the wrap-up and resolution, there was no reason to continue watching that. But Griffin stole the wedding, everyone starts hugging pantsless Swindle, and they get out, extort the man. It gets revealed that Mr. Scary Russian dude is what's-her-face's father.
And there was also the scene where everyone was doing the cake fight, and Griffin does the whole walking thing, and so we're back to the beginning, whatever.
Oh, that's right. Back to in media res.
And Griffin isn't even walking toward the cake. They just straight up forget about the action figure for 30 seconds.
I hate those cliches of, hi, yep, that's me, and I bet you're wondering how I got myself in this situation. Well, actually, it's a really funny story that all tracks back to about 3 weeks ago. I hate it. I hate it so much. It is so cliche that I don't know if I've mentioned this yet. I want to punch that child in the face.
Yes, we know you like to beat children, David. Yeah, that's become very clear.
But at least I don't beat up middle schoolers. I at least waited for them to be in high school.
For them to maybe be able to fight back.
Sarah's over here ready to destroy this little girl's career.
7th grade. We're equal.
You didn't watch this in 7th grade.
I did not watch this in 7th grade, but neither did you.
Yeah, but I'm threatening to beat up a 14-year-old. That's better.
Yeah, well, Sarah looks like she's 12.
She'd get away with it. That's right. Yeah, I'd go to prison.
I'd get away with it, apparently. That's fine. Apparently, Melissa gets away with all her crap.
That's right. You know what? You just beat the crap out of her and just say, you know what? I get away with this because she gets away with so much more.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you beat her up, she'd steal your credit card information and buy a whole bunch of so...
Joke's on you, I don't have a credit card.
I'm gonna steal all your money. Joke's on you, I don't have any money.
The whole cake fight happens and the kids pose for another movie poster. That's all I can call these moments where it's just this camera panning on them and they stand still. It's just them posing for movie posters. And then they pull up a little one-liner or whatever, and the Russian happens, and so he gives them the action figure and the Russian's like, leave, don't stop running. And we find out that it's actually Samantha's dad, who is a really good actor, which begs the question, why does Savannah suck so much?
Why isn't she? Yeah, no, good point.
And then they have the card, and the auction house comes out because they're being really nosy, and the French dude's like, dude, we're having an auction. He's like, yeah, but don't you want somebody with this card? And he just immediately takes him in and auctions it off. There's no waiting period, no making sure it's authentic, nothing.
It's almost like he's an adult in a Nickelodeon movie.
Oh, poor man. He had the worst.
Yeah, he was still so traumatized from his experience in the elevator that he just was not thinking clearly.
Swindle runs away with the briefcase and realizes that it's all those little things Melissa printed.
They're still printing.
That are still printing. So she's got a bunch of those when she gets home.
I was really expecting a bigger payoff for that. They made 10,000 copies of this thing, and all of 6 people who were in front of this hotel saw those cards.
And then everyone actually gets a cut on the money versus in the book, which I like the resolution of the book a lot better. It was more realistic. It's like no one gets to keep the money, and Griffin is lucky he didn't get arrested.
Yeah.
Realistic.
And then what we get...
But no.
Go ahead.
No, you're right. What we get is they all get a cut of the money. And then the end, what did Ben do with his share of the money? We don't get to find out anybody else.
Well, you know, I'm pretty sure what Ben does with his share of the money is he opens up the LLC of becoming this ragtag Scooby-Doo-esque version of a crime-fighting group of kids who specifically sets out to help kids who have been screwed over by adults, leading into the sequel where some little girl's parrot got stolen. What the...
Yeah, there's no way that's not a feasible thing. That's an expensive bird. There's no way your parents would have been like, oh, hell no, we need to see a body.
Yeah.
Because that's an expensive bird.
All I could think is either they were trying to lead into a sequel, but the other thing was I was wondering if they were trying to do a TV show.
Ew.
Because the two main dudes, their TV show ends either that year or the next year. Sam and Kat don't make it past their first season. And who knows what the heck Gibby's doing.
Gibby! He's hiding in the ceiling.
With the Superman string.
Gibby!
That's all I can figure is they were trying to do a tie-in for the TV show. And every episode they would get one more adult.
Who knows?
I still think the bird thing's not feasible.
It's
No.
not.
On a number of levels. Working in a pet store, that is not feasible on a number of levels.
Can we talk about the elementary schooler who knows the exact worth of her bird?
That's another point, too. I know for a fact that my parents gave me a special type of bird that cost $300,000. Oh, you're so cute. Tassel's hair.
But she makes it sound like she took it to the pet store.
Which is also not feasible.
There is no way. Your parents took that thing to the... Stop. Why are they doing nothing? No, we gotta go over to Griffin. Griffin's gotta get us the stuff because he gets everybody what they want. No.
The movie was so bad from the get-go that expecting it to somehow miraculously, at the end of the movie, to not be absolute garbage is just a little too much to ask for. It was one more turd log thrown on the proverbial dumpster fire that was this movie, and it didn't stick out compared to every single other horrible nonsense thing that happened in this film because it was just set as the standard so early on that you don't even typically bat an eye at it because you're like, yes, this movie is awful. It doesn't make sense. Why should the closing be any different?
But I want to counter that with it meant a lot to me because what kept me going through the movie was the idea of Griffin getting arrested. That's what kept me going through this movie was he's gonna get arrested. He's gonna get arrested. He's gonna get arrested. He's gonna get... that's all I wanted. That is all I wanted.
He's not gonna get arrested. No, it's a Nickelodeon movie. There's no way.
That's all I wanted.
There are no police in the Nickelodeon MC. There's no police in the Nickelodeon cinematic universe.
So what are your final thoughts on all of this?
The book is good. The movie is not.
I enjoyed the book. The movie made me want to drink bleach. Can I say that? Is that...
It's
I don't understand why they bought the rights to the book because they could have made this movie without that.
You know, there are actually a number of books that have middle schoolers as their main characters that studios took and were like, no, we're going to make this a high schooler and we're going to change the plot and the plot's going to go away. I can think of 3 movies off the top of my head, including this one, that do that, which made me very upset.
I can understand the age jump because teenagers are allowed to work more hours than non-teenagers. So in a way, that makes sense.
Well, yes, but the plot doesn't need to change so drastically.
It doesn't, and that's why I don't understand why they bought the book rights when they could have made this movie without it.
The entire subplot about that special action figure could have been the entire main plot.
Yeah, or it could have been if they change the dude's name, change the characters' names, and change what they sell. It could be something that's worth less or something. If they change the baseball card and the names, you have nothing to do with the book.
I found this very expensive... I started the sentence without thinking of a thing.
Don't you walk into a sentence and you just ask yourself, how do I get out of here?
That's exactly what's just happened. I don't know. I found this expensive necklace in the wall. Let's go sell it. There we go. I found a thing. Stuffed animal. Rubber duck.
Or just something. It could have been anything. The baseball card takes such a back seat. It doesn't even matter.
You know, a lot of it might also just have to be to where if they tried to make this as any other movie, it might not have had the same resolve or anything like that, because Swindle was a reasonably well-selling book in the demographic that it was intended for. So I bet they were just hoping for the reaction of people to be like, ooh, I read that book when I was younger. I want to watch that movie. And so they do. And the only reason they wanted it was so they could have the name. They changed so much about it because had they made that exact same movie without a name such as Swindle, something recognizable, people would have just brushed it off as another one of those just crappy old, barely any effort put into it Nickelodeon movie.
And they would be right.
But you forget, sir, this is a Nickelodeon movie.
I don't know what contract Gordon Corman signed for this, but he should have got a better lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness. So thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon.
Thank you so much for making the good financial decision of giving your money to the Escape With Me Book Club podcast. Your money is very appreciated and goes to caffeinating the 2 writers for this exact sort of thing that keeps the entertainment reaching your eardrums every single month.
Okay, no, that's actually technically wrong because I actually don't drink caffeine anymore.
Neither do I. Thanks for giving us money. You're awesome. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. If you would like to support us further, you can find us both on Twitter and Instagram at EWM_book club. We post fun book content, and you might get a sneak peek of what is coming before we even announce it.
And if you're inclined to the Dungeons and Dragons way of life, check out The Empire's Edge on Twitter and Instagram at The Empire's Edge, and listen to our podcast, available on any sort of platform where you may normally listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube. And I will see you over there.
Yeah.
Tune in next time where we review the book and the movie, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Do you want to do our job?
No, you guys do it so well. My female voices are not nearly that good.
Join us next time when we compare the book and movie for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, written by J.K. Rowling.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and thank you so much for our first guest star, David Warner. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Lizzie Sawyer.
And I'm David Warner.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time.